Mostly Mechanical Mods presents Modding for Dummies. In this episode, we will explain what script is and talk about the basics of file management. The development process of a game like CK3 probably goes something like this. Game designers come up with the mechanics that they'd like to see in the game. In CK3, the focus is on medieval ruler characters interacting with each other and with their court. Programmers code these systems in a language called C++, and this code runs a simulation. If you switch to observer mode, the game basically plays itself. Content designers plug content into these systems to populate the world, so the simulation actually has something to run on. So things like map data, characters, traits, religions, events. Now, Paradox cannot recruit content designers that all know C++ because those are very different skill sets. So programmers created a scripting language which looks like code but isn't. It's script. It has rules that are simplified enough that they can be taught to pretty much anyone. So the good news is, you don't need to be a programmer to mod Paradox games. Most modders aren't. The same is true for GUI or Graphical User Interface, which has its own separate scripting language, but we'll put that aside for now because GUI is a different beast that we'll tackle much later. To understand what modders can do in script, let's talk about file structure. The game folder is basically a file cabinet. When you open a drawer, there's a number of folders in there that are neatly labeled. Each of those folders matches a database in the game code, so what folder a file is in is very important. In each of those folders, there are any number of files, literal text files usually, and in these files you will find objects. Objects is a bit of an abstract term on purpose. They can be of different types, and it is the path of a file that determines the type of the objects in that file. In script, any top-level script block defined by a unique key is an object, and a script block is opened by using the equal sign followed by an opening bracket and closed by using a closing bracket. You can nest blocks, but if a script block is nested inside another one, then it is not a top-level block. To make things a bit confusing, most objects are defined as top-level script blocks, but some objects are defined inside other objects. For example, in the religion files, the top-level script block is a religion, and in that top-level script block you will find first a bunch of parameters in their own blocks, and then a faiths block in which individual faiths are defined with their own parameters. So when you start the game, it opens the game file cabinet, goes through each of those folders, takes files one by one, and loads them in the appropriate database. Then, if you have your own mod enabled, the game will do the same with the mods file cabinet. If the game finds two files in the same folder and with the same name, it throws out the original version and replaces it with the mods version. That's how total conversion mods replace most of the content in the game, and why you don't have the King of France running around Tamriel in Elder Kings 2. If it finds a file with a custom name that it has never seen, it looks at the objects in the file and puts them in the right database. Some objects in the file might be brand new, and it will add those into the game. That's how CyberXScan's very immersive Events and Tales mods adds events to the game without replacing or changing any existing event. And some objects might already be in the game, in which case it will replace just that object, not the whole file it was in originally. Though be aware that although this is true for all files in the command folder, it is not true for all game files, most importantly event files, but we will cover exceptions in other videos. What this basically means is that if you want to add an object, you can create a custom file with just that new object in it. If you want to change an object, you can create a custom file with that modified object in it. But if you want to delete an object from the game, you will have to replace the whole file that object is in. The three important things to keep in mind are: be careful about your folder structure. The path of a file is how the game knows what kind of content this file contains, and how it should be handled. If you put a culture file in the religion folder, it won't work. If you misspell the name of a folder, it won't work either. Be mindful of your file names. Having a file with the same path and name as a vanilla file means it will replace that whole file, whereas having a file with a custom name means that only objects found in that file will be added or changed. Whenever you can, you should put in your mod only what is necessary for it to work, and avoid replacing objects that you don't need to, because it will cause compatibility issues with other mods that might be changing those very same objects. But compatibility will be covered in other videos as well. This was Mostly Mechanical Mods Modding for Dummies. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.